going on, and welcome back to the Simple Line Moto. In today's episode, we continue working on the XS500, but we're going to be starting on the electric. Off camera, I got all the wiring all organized, so I know what each button, how I'm going to have it wired up. So I got that for both controls. And then also, I'm going to be running the stock gauges. So I got all of those all marked off and all organized for the next step. I was able to also get the points ignition all set up. So I got the coils back in as well, as you can see. And it's a good start for what we're planning on doing. So we're gonna get going on that. A little bit cold in the garage, as you might be able to see from that breath. We got some snow. It is the Midwest, so we got snow. I did pick up this little heater, and it's working. Not the best. We're running at 31 degrees. So a little nippy, but not as cold as it could be. Because I think right now, what is the high? What are we looking at? We're looking at 9 degrees right now. Feel of -6. So 30 right now. That's not bad. But yeah, we got this one going. And I might throw this little heater on just for a little bit extra. So, but yeah, let's show you what goodies I got and what I'm gonna be using for this build. Right here we have our starter solenoid. We have our regulator rectifier, and this is important because we're going to be running a anti-gravity lithium battery. I have the 801. I reached out to Revival Cycles, and that's the one they recommended. So I went that route. I also picked up Revival Cycles wiring kit. And if you know what I'm about to show you next. I've been kind of planning this and been my main goal and plan for this build. But we got a MotoGadget that we're going to be running. So the plan now is to go over the wiring diagram that I put together so far. And so I have a game plan of what I'm going to be doing. I have the full MotoGadget manual, and then Revival Cycles provides all the wires, the gauges that they are, and then I've been also referencing the stock XS500 wiring diagram. So I've been able to be studying this, figure out where I want everything ran, how it's supposed to be ran, and go from there. So we have a good game plan. We're going to start figuring it all out and get going. For now, just for testing, you're going to see me using these cheap little connectors. That's not what I'm going to be using for the final build, but just kind of getting everything ran and have an idea, make sure everything works as it should before I spend the money on other connectors that will be way better than what these will be. So let's start tearing into this stuff and see if what I have planned is actually going to work. So all right, let's get going. Alright, so we got the Motogaget all wired up, and it turns on. As you can see, I just use my switch. Does what it's supposed to. But what I'm running into is when I have the starter motor connected, it's actually blowing the 30 amp fuse. But when I have the starter motor disconnected and I start the starter solenoid, the starter solenoid clicks, so everything there. Alright, so I guess my camera doesn't like the cold. It was negatives today. So in the office, kind of going through the manual, the MotoGadget manual, and I'm running a 30 amp fuse at the moment. They have a maximum of 50 or a 40. So I'm gonna see if running a 40 won't short or burn that fuse out. So, oh, I do need 40. So I grabbed a 30, but even in my diagram itself, I put down 40. So I'm guessing it's just drawing too much. So I would think I'm gonna run a 40 and make sure that's okay. If it blows a 40, then I have other issues going on, because when I take the this wire off, going to the starter, and put a multimeter to this post and then to ground, and do the start input, I'm getting 12.6 volts. So that's nothing out of the ordinary. So I'm gonna throw a 40 in there. So I'm just realizing that now, that it does have a 40, or need a 40. So I'm gonna go grab one of those. Alright, we're back out in the garage. We haven't been able to do much. Well, can't really say that. You have seen that I do have the MotoGadget all mounted, and I have the starter solenoid, and the regulator rectifier is mounted under the tray. But what I started running into was, one, it's been cold in the garage, and my camera doesn't really like the cold. So a lot of those clips, I'd only be able to get that one clip, and then the battery would die just due to the cold. So today it's about 40s out. We actually lost some snow, so got grass again. So it's a nice temp out here now, so hopefully I don't have any issues with the camera. So yeah, we're gonna continue again with this. What I was running into was I was running a 30 amp fuse, but now ran out, grabbed some 40s, which I already had it set up for. I don't know why I put 30s in there. So hopefully this fixes my issue, because what I was running into was when I had the power wire from the starter going to the solenoid, it was blowing the fuse. So hopefully that's all fixed and we can continue going on this. So we're gonna make sure this all works, and then we'll probably throw the forks on, just temporarily, just because I picked up, or something came in the mail, which is kind of cool, and I'll kind of pull the bike together, which is gonna be this. So it's gonna have like a little bug eye type of thing. So, and I think this is kind of cool, has the yellow tint and running the dual front headlight like this will kind of match the tail light. So hopefully it'll pull the whole bike together, and we'll be able to get a cool finished look out of it. So let's get diving into this, and we'll be able to film this and get everything going. So we got the MotoGadget turned on. Now should be the starter. It's working. Really? The fuck? That's on. MotoGadget does its thing. Alright, so it is working. So throw this cap back on. Alright, so that is a good sign. I think something is still shorting out, because if I do run it for a long time, I think it just draws too much. So I'm not sure if that's a starter issue, but I think we're at a good point here. So either it's like a starter issue, or I just don't have a good enough ground. So we'll figure it out. So, but at least I know the starter solenoid's working as it should. And one thing about the starter solenoid that I went with, I was going to go with the one Revival Cycles offers, but as of right now, they're out of stock, and they said it wouldn't be back in stock until maybe the spring, and I don't want to wait that long. So I was able to, I believe this one was from Motorsport, if I'm not mistaken, and it looked like the same setup that Revival Cycles offers, and this one was actually way cheaper. So maybe I'll leave a link if anyone's interested, but this is good. So we can continue going. I just want to make sure that's working. It's weird that it's still kind of blowing a fuse. This is the look we're going for. I think it's gonna be pretty sweet. Let me know what you guys think. I think the brackets will work fine. So, need that to stay. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So, it's coming together. Alright, we're back out in the garage. It's been a little bit since I last picked up, and I was able to figure out the issue I've been having with the fuse blowing, which is cool. Let me kind of show you why that is. So if you can kind of see, this wire is running to the positive side of the battery, and initially I had my fuse in line with that wire, and I thought that was the correct way to have it, but I figured out that it actually isn't. So the actual way it's supposed to be ran was you have a solid wire running to post number 1 on the starter solenoid, and then from the starter solenoid post 1 I have another power cable running to the 40 amp fuse back to the battery post on the M unit. So essentially what I was able to figure out and understand is you want a max of 40 amps running to the unit itself. So I figured between the battery and the M unit I would have a 40 amp fuse, which I do have, but initially how it was wired was having that inline fuse running to the starter solenoid without running it back to the M unit. When I would go to function the starter solenoid, it was pulling too much of a current through the fuse, and that's the reason it was blowing. So essentially the way I have it now is the current's not being pulled, or the current for the starter isn't being pulled through the fuse. It's kind of on its own separate wiring. So that's a huge step, and that kind of finishes up all the main wiring I need for kind of the build. And so we got that all figured out. Everything else is working as it should, but I think we're gonna end this one here. Essentially in this video we're able to get the M unit mounted. We're also able to get the regulator rectifier mounted, and we're able to get a nice test setup going. I'm gonna come up with a mount for the starter solenoid, and we can kind of get everything else ran. So I got all my wires labeled for both sides. Pretty much the only wires I need are these two. So essentially on the right side, I'm just gonna be running the starter. Since it's like a momentary switch, I know I can buy aftermarket switches that are just a button, but right now it kind of keeps that stock look. So, but I can just use that starter solenoid, or that starter button, and then essentially on this side, the horn will act as that same way. I'm hoping I could use the stock turn signals with the M unit and have them function as they should. And then actually for the high and low beam, I'm actually not going to be using that. What I'm going to be using is the flash to pass button. So that button, I'll be able to go from my low beams to my high beams and just run it that way. I think it's simpler than trying to use, because essentially this would be like a lock switch. So we have a solution for that. So got the gauges all mounted and all the wires coming out with them all labeled, of course. Coming to the front, we have our headlights that we're going to be running mounted, and they're going to be super sick. One thing I do need to figure out is if I want to run the turn signals off of the headlight itself. I think it'd be kind of cool. Say you put your left turn signal on and the left bulb flashes, and then same for the right. Instead of running like a separate light for the turn signals. So I think that'd be kind of cool. I just need to figure out a way to make that work and make sure it'd be visible. So we have that going. So I think next episode I want to get the regulator rectifier all mounted, or it's mounted but all wired to the stator and then up to the M unit and the battery. And then we can kind of get all the other wiring kind of all wired. I know in the last couple clips I kind of did a test and made sure I was able to get spark from the coils and the spark plug. So that's all operating as it should. So that's good to see. So kind of the bike's there. It just addressing a couple things and getting the bike together and running how I want it to. So we're coming along, and slowly but surely it'll be finished. So like I said, it's not a day project, it's not a week, it's not even a month, and we'll be able to finish off this build in the future. So we're gonna take our time with it, but for now, take it easy. Have yourself a good day. Thank you.